Hey. So I learned early on that being a respectable woman doesn't save you from the trauma that dudes are going to bring you. Well, I don't want to say that I learned it early on. The lessons, the lessons that started to come, they started to come early, but it took a minute for it to penetrate in my brain. And at the time of this story, I was a late teen and it was nowhere near penetrating. I thought that, if I was a respectable girl, then I would in turn be treated respectfully. Silly me. And when I say respectable, I don't just mean how I dressed or how modest I was and, or how many people I didn't have sex with, not being promiscuous, not just in a sexual gender expression, not in a sexuality, not just that. I'm talking about respectable even in how faithful and how ride or die I am when it comes to guys. You feel what I'm saying? So how much I can deal with, how much trauma. Because as a black woman, being that ride or die chick and how much you can deal with and still being in a motherfucker's corner after they've done you wrong over and over and over. The messaging that I got early on was that was looked as, respectable, how much trauma that you can endure. Now, don't get me wrong. That wasn't the language. It wasn't like, oh, how much trauma can you endure? No, it wasn't that. It was the subtle implication that, oh, if he cheats and you take him back, you're just a loyal woman. You're a ride or die woman. If he does some type of mistake, even if he hits you, if he keeps losing jobs and you stick in there, and he's eventually going to become this, you just got to hold him down and he going to become this mogul. You just got to be in his corner. When statistically, and how white supremacy is set up and how classism is set up and capitalism is set up, it's probably not going to happen. But for you to be a respectable girl, for you to prove your worth as a woman and get the respect you deserve, and finally, in the end, he turns around and treats you with respect and wifes you up and does all these things that you wish he had done earlier. Eventually, he's going to get right. And even like the older women in your life will say that. They will be convinced, oh, that's just how men are. They go through those childish games. Girls mature faster than boys. That's just what it is. He's a good man, Savannah. He's just in a hard situation right now. What she say on her way to excel. That type of shit. So, all these lessons, I was getting them, but it wasn't penetrating in my brain. So at this time, I was a 17-year-old trans woman with her own apartment, a job, living independently. I had been on my own for a year at that point. Most of my friend group, most were living with their parents, because that's normal for a 17-year-old. I was the oddball out. So people would be coming over my house, like, because they couldn't smoke at their parents' house, they would come over my house. Oh, we can come over Diamonds and smoke. Because of the freedom that I had, I could give that freedom to other people, and it wasn't just like queer folks that were coming over my house. It was like straight dudes who knew that I had an apartment. They would come over just to hang out, even bring chicks over because they couldn't bring chicks to their house. I couldn't go to the chick's house. And so dudes that I had befriended, they would be like, hey, Come on over. I had a whole clique of lesbians. They could come to mine and have orgies and freak and argue and cuddle and with a level of freedom that they didn't have in their own home and or in the person that they liked home. At that time, I was smoking. I was smoking weed because I was providing the location. I never had to pay for weed. I've never actually bought weed in my life because of that situation. Everybody was keeping me high. I was, blunted out all the time. It also opened up, diversified my circle. Most of my circle was Black, but at this time it started opening, especially with the lesbians. White lesbians was coming. Latinx folks start to come into my circle because of that. It was quite interesting. It was a quite fun time. I had a really, really good time having my own apartment at 17 and being as mature as I was. Mature in the sense of I could take care of responsibilities, that kind, but not mature in I have the mind of an adult and that I still was doing risky shit. This was my young days, so honey, I was doing a lot of stuff. One of those things was the freedom to have boys come over and hang out. Woo! And I would get on the phone chat line. I would go outside and tip. I lived on the intersection of two major streets. So, just walking outside, you're going to run into people. You're going to run into guys. And on the opposite corner of where my apartment was, I actually worked at a fast food joint on the opposite corner. And I would meet dudes at there and honey get off work and they come right to the crib, have fun and, get our life. So it just was a time that I was like, oh, this is what being an adult is. This is what, oh my God, I should have always lived like this. Everybody should live like this. You got your own place, you pay your bills, and oh my God, this is great. Also, I learned how to manage money. I learned how to, save. This was the time that, you're budgeting and you're like, okay, what is my bills for the month so I can pay my bills? Got to pay my rent, got to pay my lights, got to pay my phone bill. We got to pay, this is the time when we had landlines. So got to make sure that I got all of my stuff together and what's my leftover? What am I going to do with the leftover money? So during this time, the Nintendo 64 was hot. And oh my gosh, I had saved up my money, like a couple of checks, the extra money of a couple of checks, and I had worked for probably 2 months, and the extra money I saved, just really penny pinching, not buying no wigs, not buying no cute clothes, not buying no new makeup, because also Mac was hot. Mac was coming up. I had so many things that I would spend my money on, but this time because I wanted that Nintendo 64, no, I have to get that Nintendo 64. I have to get it. So I saved up my money and I bought it. 2 controllers, so when the trade come up on over, I can play with them. I had Mario Kart. I love games that are competitive, that you can play with other people, like Mario Kart. Of course, I like any role play game like Zelda or Metroid, anything competitive like Mario Kart or Tetris. I had the game. So I was so excited and I was so proud that I had that I had saved up and got this Nintendo 64. I was so proud. I didn't have to wait for somebody to buy it, ask somebody to buy it. I was on my grown woman shit. Honey, yep, I bought it myself. I ain't gotta wait for Christmas for me to ask my mama to get it. I just was so proud and so excited. When I left the group home, for me, it was normal for me to stay in contact with some of the boys who were in the group home. Especially being that I had my own place, some of them would come over and hang out. I had got in touch with Gerald, the one that ran away from the group home, and he was staying with his aunt. I How did I find him? He found me. So Indianapolis has a big children's museum. And one of the programs that they had to get kids to come and participate and enjoy what was going on, you come for their programs and they'll give you this little card or whatever. You get hole punched in them, and I think it's like 10 slots. You know how like they did at Subway, if you get a hole punch and you get a certain one, you get a free sandwich or something like that. This little thing, if you get the hole punch, you get free tickets into the museum, museum. But you go to the museum to take these little classes. It's not classes like, they are classes. They're teaching you stuff. But they're teaching you sciencey stuff or making fun shit. Like we made these wood pencils, like this thing, this drill thing that spins, and you take these metal tools, and while it's spinning, and you put it towards the wood, and it carves. Like you can carve different designs in the wood because the wood is spinning. I think that's how they make legs on tables and stuff like that. But anyway, but how they made ours was we would be making like pencils, because there would be a hole in the middle of the wood, and we could stick like the ink thing from a pen. Like, you know how if you take a pen apart, that's a little ink part, you can stick that into the wood, and you have like this designed wood pen that you have made yourself. And it's so epic, and you can take it to school, and it's super, super cute. One of my times going there, because Gerald was a sciencey, nerdy ass dude, he was there and he was participating in the classes, and that's how we got back in contact. I mean, I told him that I had my own place, and he started coming over. Child, I was so nervous, because if you remember, being in the group home was a whole different situation. You're in the house with them, the staff members are there, they're watching you. You can't really be doing nothing. You gotta sneak and do stuff. But now I don't have anybody. I got my own place. This is no supervision. We grown. So whatever happens is just gonna happen. And I just knew, for me, I thought that it was gonna be more romantic. This is gonna be much, much better, because we have the freedom and privacy that we have a little privacy, but it was us sneaking to get the privacy. But now we don't have to sneak. This is my house, and we're gonna be alone together in my house. Oh my God, this is gonna be fire. So I invited him over, and he came over, and he saw that I had a Nintendo 64, and we got on that game and were playing. Man, like we were like kids in candy stores, except it was one piece of candy. This was our bag. We played games while we was in a group home, but this is a level of freedom that we just didn't have. We can talk, it just was a kind of romantic, nerdy ass moment. We were into the video games. We were talking about the lore of Zelda. We were talking about, we were able to be in our bag, like our common bag, not just on some sexual shit, just on what we both commonly like. And there was literally no interruption. So we went on and on and on for hours talking about games and video games and comics and X-Men and whatever came, all this, what I considered at the time nerdy stuff that other folks weren't into, but we were into it. Then as the night gets late, it leads to the sexual stuff. Now, at the time, I was young, and so I actually only had sex. At this time, I only had sex once. I had gobbled some meat, but I'm talking about like getting plunged. I hadn't done anything with him yet other than the oral part. And I hadn't, honey, anal sex is just keeping it real. I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, anal sex is an acquired taste. is something that you have to learn to do. It is, I don't care what nobody say, it's something that you learn to do, and it don't feel good at first. But I don't know, that may be my experience. It feels good even on the first time, but that first little push on in, baby, you're gonna feel it. You gotta work through that. So at this time, I still wasn't just, the dick taking diva that I am now. I wasn't there yet. And so I still had some apprehension about, getting dick down. So I remember, I started, he was playing Zelda. So anybody knows Zelda is a one-player game. So we were kind of going back and forth, playing different. Like, he'll get to a boss, beat it, and I'll play and get to the next boss, beat it. That's how we were going back and forth, so that we both can be enjoying it. Watching, talking, oh, do this, do that, da 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 da. Oh yeah, remember, we go back to that lady, she had da da da, all that kind of stuff. At this time, I'm playing, and he's kind of messing with me on some flirty sexual stuff. But I beat the boss, and now it's his turn playing. So now, since he was playfully distracting me, now I'm playfully distracting him. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm poking his meat, like why it's in his little pants, poking it, getting hard, rubbing on it. When he beats the boss, he like, we done with this. And we start kissing, and he started sucking on my nipples. And at this time, I had been on hormones for a year. And so anybody who has been on hormones, they know that your nipples get extra sensitive. They're extra tender. They fucking itching because they growing, but they also extra sensitive. So when somebody's sucking on them, you're like, So he's sucking on them, and he's noticing that they're growing. You get what I'm saying? Like, before, when we were messing around, I still had my little boy body, skinny boy body. But now that I'm getting hormones and I'm changing, and he's noticing, he was like, "Damn, you really growing titties." Like, so he's just as amazed at my body changes, like a fucking client, but he's my age. I didn't have clients at this time, but you know how if you are an escort, if you've been an escort, clients can be so mesmerized by your transition. And I would learn about that years later. But at this time, I'm 17, and this is the first experience I'm having with a dude who is mesmerized by my physical changes that the hormones are doing to my body. Ass getting fatter, you getting thicker in different areas, nipples getting cute, and poking out, and he living and asking you questions, but it's in the midst of this sexual things happening. So of course I'm gonna gobble that meat, I'm gonna suck that dick, and da 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 da. So this whole night is a dream come true. It is so amazing. So exciting. It is romantic because we own our commonality, common interest shit, sexual stuff. And at the end, when everybody nut, now, mind you, this is a time in my life where sexually I was very submissive. I had very cis heteronormative mental rules. Now I know that it's two people in this scenario who have the same body parts. But for me at this time, I had these rules. I had rules about how a trans woman, if you're a trans woman, this is how you are supposed to act in sex. So one of those rules was, you are the bottom. So you do bottom things. You get fucked and you suck dick. The other stuff, any kind of verse stuff, that shit's gay. And it's ridiculous to me now as a grown adult, fully realized, sexually liberated woman. But at the time, it made sense. It's like my whole life was revolved around proving how much of a woman I was on the inside. I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. All that antiquated language that I years later would come to grow out of accepting. But at the time, that was the narrative in my mind. And so I am proving to anybody who I'm in a sexual relationship with that I am. This is we're just gonna do the woman stuff, and that would be even how I would sell it. Like if I'm trying to turn a dude out, or I'm trying to be with a dude who never messed around before, I would just tell like, oh, I mean, I can suck that dick. A mouth is a mouth. A mouth is a mouth. I mean, you want to fuck a girl in her ass? Her ass is an ass. I mean, what's gonna be the difference between my booty hole and her booty hole? So I actually use that as a tactic. The similarities and this I'm dealing with people my age, so the teenage boys will be like, "Oh yeah, you're right. A mouth is a mouth. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that's his ass. Oh, okay, that makes sense." So it would be just for me. It would be so easy to turn their ass out. But those were the rules. It was girls do certain things and boys do certain things. And so at this time, the dude who I would be hooking up with would not be doing, like, they wouldn't be giving me head. I wouldn't be plunging them. I wouldn't be poking them. They wouldn't be doing these things to me. Doing anything to me. So I would get them off and I would have to get myself off in another way. It's sad looking back at it, but mentally it was okay. Like I reconciled with it. It was some cognitive dissonance on some sexual shit. I was making it work in my brain. It didn't make sense. Years later, it didn't make sense, but at the time, it made sense. This is just what you do. You're a trans woman. This is what you got to do. So I would go to the bathroom and jack off and nut, and then come back and cuddle and be and be all with once I made them nut. So sad. So we sitting on the couch under covers, and then we cuddling. We cuddling, and I'm laying on his chest. It's just so romantic. It's just so romantic. It's so romantic. So we sleep the night away. We wake up the next morning. I have to go to school. So at this time in my life, I graduated early from school. So the last semester of school, I didn't have any classes. So the last semester of my senior year, I didn't have any classes to go to because I got all my credits in the first semester. So when I would go to school, I would be going to do the extracurricular activities because I was in drama club. I was in the choir, so I had to sing for the choir. Didn't have to, but I was in the choir. Chamber singers. So I was doing all these. My last semester was just fun stuff that I wanted to do. And so that day I had to go and do something. So I had to get up early in the morning to catch the school bus to school. I get him up. I actually cook him some breakfast and like some eggs and some bacon and some toast with some strawberry jelly, something small and simple. And we eat, and it just was so good. Like, it was so cute. So I get my jacket, he gets his jacket, and we're going out the door, and he says, "Oh, let me use the bathroom." So I'm sitting there at the door. I open the door for him to go out, but he goes to the bathroom real quick. So I'm waiting there at the door. He goes to the bathroom. I hear the toilet flush, and he comes out, and we go out the door. I close the door. I lock it. He walks me to the bus stop. Go to the bus stop, and he's like literally at the bus stop with his arms around me. So it's not freezing cold like in January, but it's cold. And so I have my arms I'm in his jacket, like in his jacket, and his jacket is around me, and he's sitting waiting on the bus stop for me, with me, and waiting to the bus stop come. When the bus stop comes, everybody's gagging because I'm huddled up with a dude that they don't know because he didn't go to that school, and so they're gagging. They like, what is going on here? Dudes is like, ooh, that's gay. The chicks is like, he cute. Who is he? And da 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 da. And so it's kind of gagging that they see, that they see somebody. Honey, treat me like. I would say back then. I would say treat me like fish, but then fish is problematic, so we're not gonna say that. But treat me like a woman, honey. So they were gagged. I get on the bus and I wave to him, and I go to school. While I'm in school, I am on cloud 9. This night I just had, oh my God, I'm on cloud 9. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so good. He's like my boyfriend, and we free. And oh my God, I'm just blushing. And everybody like, what is going on with you? So once I get done doing what I'm doing, of course I didn't have classes for super long, so I end up going home at like 2:00. So somewhere around after 12, but before like 3 or whatever, around, let's say 2:00. I go back home, and I have to catch the city bus home because the school bus don't come until school let out at 3 or 4. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I go all the way. I ride the bus. I go all the way back home. So I go to my apartment. I unlock the door, and when I open the door, I put my bag down, and I look down at the ground, and my Nintendo 64 is gone. Bitch, gagged. But nothing else is gone. My TV is not gone. None of my purses is gone. Anything that if somebody, like, nothing is ramshacked. Like, if somebody broke into the house, it would be, tore up. TV will be gone. My stereo, I had a fly stereo. This aging me, but the stereo that's bumping. I walk in the out. It just was nothing gone except for my Nintendo 64. And I had worked so hard for my Nintendo 64, so I'm like, I know somebody didn't come in here and steal my shit. I look at the windows. All my windows are locked. So nobody broke nobody broke in. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I go back. Once I check all the windows, I'll go back and check the back door. The back door is unlocked. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I know for a fact that I locked the back door because when we were preparing for when I was cooking and I was preparing to get my clothes on, my habit, like it's a morning habit, is to lock my back door, or check my back door, take the dishes whatever from the night before, because they should be dry now, take the dishes and put them up. This is like a habit, a routine of mine in the morning. Take the dishes that I'm not going to use to cook breakfast and put them up. Cook breakfast. Whatever dishes I make dirty, put them in. I'm not cleaning them joints, but put them in the sink. Get dressed. Check my back door. Make sure that's locked. Go to the front door. make sure everything is straight, go out the front door, lock it, and leave. This is my routine. I visually remember doing that. So once I visually remember doing it, I'm like, I know that my door wasn't unlocked. How did this happen? Then I remember this nigga said he needed to go to the bathroom. Did I check the door after he went to the bathroom? No. So what this nigga did was, he said, I gotta go to the bathroom, went to the bathroom and unlocked my back door. Came back as if nothing was going on, and we went out, and then went back to my apartment, came in the back and undid my Nintendo 64 and my games and took it to his house. I was over it. Got on it. It put down in my mind that that's what happened. I get on the phone and I call him, and he picks up the phone. I was like, Gerald, why did you take my shit? And he was like, what you talking about? I was like, Gerald, why did you take my shit? Don't fucking play. I know you took my shit. You went to the back door and unlocked it. I was like, why the fuck did you take my shit? And he says, cuz. Cuz what? Cuz. What the fuck you mean, cuz? Cuz what, motherfucker? Why did you take my fucking shit? Cuz. Cuz. He just kept repeating, cuz. I hang up the phone on him. I know where his aunt stays. So I make a police report, call the police, make a police report, and I tell them where his aunt stays. I tell them that in the process of us rekindling our friendship, not friendship, of us, remember when I said I met him at the Children's Museum? In the process of us talking, he was telling me what has been going on in his life. And he was staying with his auntie. He had got locked up for burglary. And he was on probation. Da 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 da. So, when I make the police report, I tell the police every single thing that happens. I show them the receipt. I tell them everything that happens. They go over to his aunt's house and finds my Nintendo 64. Serial numbers match. They lock his ass up for burglary, for breaking into my house. And because he was on probation, the same thing that they do with adults. If you do something wrong, I don't know if this works everywhere, but if you do something wrong while you are on probation, the time that you were supposed to get for that first crime that you did, you got to do that time too. And you have a new crime. So, I got his motherfucking ass locked up for stealing my shit. Because I definitely wasn't defunding the police at this time. This is get my motherfucking shit back. I didn't even have any analysis about police at that time, or mass incarceration or anything like that. I wasn't thinking about that shit. So, honey sent the police to the house and locked his motherfucking ass up. And his ass was locked up for, I want to say, for 5 years, 5 or 6 years, because he was 18. So he did his time as an adult, and I think he got 5 years because he got out when I was 22. It was wild and crazy, and I learned in this moment that no matter how much nice shit you do to dudes, because I have been, even from the time that we were in the group home, even in this moment, I have been so appealing and submissive. And I've been so, everything he wanted me to do, I was trying to make sure my house was perfect. I was trying to make sure, like I'm talking about, even when he was over my house, like washing his clothes, cooking him breakfast, doing all these things to prove that I was this homely, womanly, domestic ass thing. I was loyal to him. I had got into fights with people for him. In our time as friends, in our time as lovers, in our time, remember, I have been dealing with this dude since I was 14 years old. This was when I got into the group home with him. This was the time. And so I had done, from 14 to 17, I had done so much to prove that I was loyal to him, prove that he was my love, that I really was down. And yet and still, this nigga still got into my fucking house, not broke, but got into my fucking house and stole my prized possession that I worked so hard saving for. This motherfucker still stole my shit. None of that stuff. None of that stuff that I had done sexually, not that that ever mattered. But remember, I was 17, so I thought all of this stuff was special. Protecting his image when people would suspect that we was messing around. Be like, no, we're not messing around. All that kind of stuff. None of that shit fucking mattered. When it was time for him to make the decision to harm me, to steal my shit, he made the decision to choose violence. To choose to steal my shit. Fuck what I'd done to get it. Fuck that he could have come over to my house at any time he wanted. The nigga could have moved in. For real, for real. It was my shit. But he chose to take my shit, to be selfish and take my shit. And for the rest of our life, because we still had a connection. I didn't trust him ever again. But we were not in each other's life, but our paths crossed many times after this. And from that moment on, I learned from that moment, this nigga will always be selfish. He will always be ain't shit nigga that is never going to look out for you. That is always going to look out for himself. Always. And that's how they are. So you got to always keep your guard up. Always.